Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, How to Harness AI in Project Management and Maximise its Impact. My name's Etty, I'm the Content Marketing Executive at ILX. We'll give it another minute or so just for a few more people to join. I can see people sort of filtering in, so we'll give it a bit of time. And then I shall be handing over to Rute, Agile Coach and Advisor to PeopleCert, who's going to be taking you through today's presentation. Before I start though, we've just got a few housekeeping bits that I need to run through. So firstly, you'll notice that you've all come in on mute. Please remain on mute throughout the session. Any questions or anything you have, there should be a chat box in the side. If you can pop those in there, then if they're technical questions, you can't hear us, can't see us, those types of things, then I'll get back to you via the chat box. If not, then we are going to be running a Q&A portion at the end, so we will answer these questions at that point. Secondly, yes, the webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a follow-up email from us tomorrow with a link to the recording, so then you can watch it back, forward it on to colleagues if you think they'll find it interesting, and that kind of thing. And finally, give us a follow on social media. We do run lots of webinars along this, sort of around similar topics. And so you might find those interesting, and we definitely promote those on our social channels, so it's a good place to sort of keep an eye out for things like that. Today's session is going to last about half an hour, and then, as I said, there'll be time for a Q&A portion at the end. So we will crack on. Before we start with the main presentation, there is a quick poll that I'd like you guys to fill in, please. This is just to kind of judge what your sort of current understanding of AI is and how confident you feel using it. So we're just going to start that now. This should pop up on your screens. As I said, if you can please fill this out, that would be great. Okay, I think that's the majority of people voted. I'll give it a little bit longer. Okay, so the majority of you sort of not particularly confident or slightly confident if using AI. So hopefully you will find today's session useful. And fingers crossed, we're going to be running the same poll again at the end. So fingers crossed, you'll be feeling a lot more confident by the time that we do that. So yeah, without further ado, I will hand over to Rute, who is going to be running for you today's presentation.
Hi, everyone. So, as I have seen, 7% of you were very confident. What are you doing here today? You have to run it, I think. Talk to me. My contact will be at the end, and we'll do the next AI webinar together, I guess. For everybody else, welcome. We'll be learning a bit about AI today. The most interesting thing, obviously, we're here in a cooperation between ILX and PeopleCert. And ILX has done a beautiful report in 2023. It came out in 2024, obviously, but it is very interesting what employees as well as organizations think. And you'll see here in red something that employees will say about AI, and 76%, that's a big, big number, to be honest, saying it's a challenge to keep up with tech developments, like in general, but AI being the biggest tech development as of late, that is going to be one of the biggest challenges in future. And we all know how it is in the workplace, right? Mostly you have to do it all on your own because you don't get extra time for stuff. You need to do it like on the weekend or in your free time, skill up yourself. There's not a lot of spaces yet where people will give you like, of course, take time off and go learn about AI. So that will be good though, because apparently we need it, right? So 76% don't feel confident at all. And if we look at the organizational side, we will also see that the numbers are fairly high there as well. It's about the same for organizations saying AI is the most in-demand skill for us, which makes you wonder a bit why they're not giving people time off to learn about AI, but maybe that's coming in the future. So get out your calendars and mark the days where you can learn about AI, because soon we'll need to learn about it, all of us. 81% of organizations say that the speed in which AI evolves is actually challenging them. And challenging them is a very nice way of saying that it's too challenging, to be honest, and they don't need what to do, how to keep up with it, and what they need to try and start to implement in the first place. So we'll be talking about some of that, like what are some applications you can use right now? What is some stuff you can use right away without losing a lot of your free time to get to know AI, what it can and what it can't do. I think the can't do is pretty interesting because there's still a lot that AI can't do that you might not know about. And then if we look at the last number, we see that 64%, so a bit more than half of them say that the employees in the companies have actually started fearing they'll lose their job to AI. And I think that is a legitimate concern, to be honest, because if we're looking at how fast tech is progressing, how AI is everywhere, we're hearing it everywhere at the moment. So everybody has the feeling like, oh my God, I need to be an AI god to be in the know, to be getting on with my career, but I'm not getting a lot of time to upskill. My company doesn't know where AI is at the moment. Obviously, I'll be thinking about keeping my job, and will that be successful? So let us have a look at that thing before we dive into AI, because people who are afraid can't learn, right? So we need some psychological safety in here. Will AI actually take your job? Let's talk about it. So I think the 5 most important points is that obviously people are worried about job displacement. And when we are talking about job displacement, I think it's interesting to know that not everybody is thinking about AI at the moment. So if I'm opening up like the skill set for a farmer, maybe they are not yet that impacted by some AI stuff as maybe somebody who is like in the high tech field going on, right? So we're talking about certain job roles here, and mostly you would probably say blue, white collar, all of that stuff, right? People working in cubicles, at desks, in orgs, doing technical stuff on computers all day. So if you're one of those, yeah, you might have to start thinking about using AI, which is why you're here, right? You want to learn about it. And then next, we will look at the skills gap. So interestingly, people are saying that a lot of the workers that are currently worried about AI taking their job might not have the skills required for AI related jobs. And if we look into that a bit later, you might see that you might actually have the skills. You just need to polish them and you need to shift your focus a bit. So that's going to be interesting as well. AI is not all about knowing how to code and data. So rest assured, we are fine. Unless you're a coder, then you might want to look into like producing AI and getting into coding, of course. But that is not what we'll be talking about today, like in depth. And another concern, obviously, automation bias. Having AI make decisions all depends on the data we feed it, right? So if we feed it biased data, might it be possible that I'm not considered for job openings in the future because I have the wrong skill, the wrong, I don't know, face, color. There's a lot of bias that we are thinking about nowadays already in how to get hired for certain jobs. And if the future will be run by AI, or at least these sorts of tasks might be automated in HR, then I might actually be thinking about this, right? So talking about bias and how to mitigate bias and make sure that AI isn't biased obviously will be a big point of concern in future going forward. And we'll briefly touch upon that. We could talk about this for like 3 days. So let's just look at the most important points for now. And maybe we'll have a more in-depth AI webinar going on in future. But for now, let's stay light and breezy at the top of things. Next, we'll have privacy concerns. So obviously, will AI take my job is one thing, but how about it impacting my life in such a way that there might not be a job anymore? I need to be worrying about my privacy. I need to be worrying about a lot of things, getting distracted. All of that can come into there. I think that might be more of like an anxiety-based concern, to be honest, where we can rest assured in a second that it will be fine. And then fifth, we will have new opportunities. Obviously, every technological big leap always produced new job openings. And there actually were a lot of people able to just going from building machines to automating machines, going to working together with machines, right? It was like this in the Industrial Revolution. So it will probably be about the same in the AI field as well. So hopefully we're a little less worried about this part right now. And we'll also look at a quote from Professor Richard Baldwin. He is a Geneva Graduate Institute professor in Switzerland, and among other things. And I think this is one of the, I think, most quoted things or sentences on AI in the internet at the moment. And he very nicely says, AI will not replace you. A person using AI will. So upskill in AI. Welcome. Let's secure our jobs and learn about AI in the process. So if we are looking at challenges in project management or even product management, the whole PPM portfolio side of things, there is a lot of challenges that we are facing right now in projects already. The more data there is, the more globally distributed teams are right now. The State of Agile report actually said last year, I think end of last year, that more than 80% of teams right now are globally distributed, which obviously makes it a lot harder to talk to each other. We need more transparency in data. Project data transparency was not that good at in the beginning anyway. If you think about a lot of projects that you did or that you were working for, you'll probably know of this. So having limited visibility into what the status really is, not in the sense of numbers, but where are we in the project? What does that mean actually for where we are going in future? And can we still like meet our deadlines and finish a product that a customer will love? These sorts of things are already very hard. So obviously there's a lot of opportunity there as well. So everything with handling data. And if we look at this very beautiful graph that was adapted from a report in 2023 from the Project Management Institute, we will see what AI is capable of right now. So if we look at the left side there, the axis, we have the task complexity, and we see that the higher the task complexity gets, the less AI bubbles are going around there, right? So these are the tasks that AI can do. And then if we look at this axis down there, the horizontal one, then we see that what is a machine doing all by itself and what is a human doing together with a machine. So it's not the AI on their own, so to say. There is very, very little that the AI can actually do on their own. So we'll see in the corner, meeting notes, summary, report generation, maybe some lessons learned summary. That's about it. And all of the other stuff, we need an actual person to work together with the AI. So I think we're good. We don't have to be worried about our jobs yet. We just need to learn about using AI and, to be honest, making our life a lot easier because we're using AI and it's doing stupid, tedious jobs like writing reports for us. I mean, who doesn't love that, right? So let us have a look at some of the stuff that it can help with. It can actually help forecasting timelines and budgets. So if we have a good software for that, obviously, then we can feed it the data and we can feed it data from previous projects that we did that went in a similar direction. And then AI nowadays can actually forecast how likely it is in percentages with risk mitigation strategies, whether we'll actually meet our deadlines, which is super interesting because that's one of the biggest challenges. As, for example, I, as a project manager, also faced like brooding over reports and numbers and thinking, well, what does this actually say in real life for the future? We'll be able to make our targets. Another thing that's interesting is that this globally distributed team problem that we're talking about, that everybody needs to be in the know, but we're not in the same office anymore. A lot of people are in home office. We are maybe even across countries for a lot of things. We actually need a lot of digital data. So we might already be using some, hopefully we're already using some visual like platforms and spaces where we will have setups like the project plan and all the data going in, all the reports pasted on there. And if we are smart and not working hard, right, we will be using AI to actually crunch those numbers for us and keep them up to date. And what is the most interesting thing here is keeping them up to date live. So like having live numbers at any point and not saying, yeah, this is the report from like 2 weeks ago. So obviously numbers have changed. That shouldn't be an issue anymore. So that's exciting, right? On the other hand, as we are like going forward in the world of AI and more people are starting to use it, feeding data into it, obviously AIs will become more proficient using that data. And there is, let's say, some limited tooling already there that can actually help you manage risks and do risk management for you in a limited, let's say, limited amount of complexity. And obviously a lot of the stuff we need to double check, and we'll get to that in a minute, what that could look like. And I will also give you a tip later on how you can actually like produce something on risk management with AI fast. You have never used it. After today, you'll be able to do a very quick and easy risk management thing with AI. So let's look forward to that. So let us have a look at what actually is this like low complexity stuff that a machine can do by itself. We've seen that it's just a little. Let's look at some numbers for this. So we had the visuals. Now let's look at some numbers. So we'll have 70% of tasks nowadays. That is stuff that an AI can do almost on their own. That's automating mostly. So 70% of automation, or 70% of what AI is doing, is automation. That's not probably a big thing, right? That's stuff you actually don't want to do yourself anyway. So that's a job that they can have, to be honest. I don't like doing that. You don't like doing it. So let the AI have it. If we are looking more towards like strategic stuff, planning, strategy, all of that, where data becomes very complex, where we need to put our minds to real life, like what is the industry like? What is our company in the industry like? What are our customers like? And how does that all connect? Then the AI is getting up to some real limitations. There is obviously some stuff that people are working on, like that's top secret and that some companies might be using or big corps might be using. But for the everyday person, it's not really that interesting yet. It's just 2010. So 30% of stuff is actually like planning and strategy stuff. So for the planning and strategy, we still need people, very much so, even though you might be using AI for some things. And let's have a look at what that is. So some use cases of where we are using AI in projects or in the job today is automation, obviously. So this has a lot to do with improving collaboration. So seamlessly working online only works if everything is in real time, right? And that is what the AI is doing. It's crunching the numbers, it's producing the graphs and all of the stuff that you're already using in a lot of tools. You might not even know that there's AI in there maybe, but a lot of the things where we see like project graphs, dashboards and stuff like that is already AI enhanced, especially if we're talking about, for instance, tools like Jira, anything actually to do with Atlassian, already a lot of AI in there to give us more accurate forecasts. Also interesting, automated subtitles and minutes, like meeting minutes. Who wants to write those anymore? So there is some stuff in Microsoft Copilot that actually lets you transcribe meetings and produce meeting minutes automatically if you have it enabled or your organization has it enabled. So go talk to them and have it enabled. Let them check their privacy and data stuff and have it enabled and start messing around with that and see how it works. Obviously, this is also a great thing for global collaboration when we're talking in different languages. Maybe people might have trouble hearing, I don't know, the headphone is not working today, you know, those troubles. So having subtitles and other accessibility stuff is really important as well. On the other hand, we can do resource allocation a lot better with AI nowadays. So what I find most interesting, of course, intelligent scheduling, yes, predictive allocation, beautiful. I like dynamic load balancing a lot. Being an agile coach, obviously, it's all about can the team actually still do something? Do they have capacity? Can they still take on another job or that very important thing that the customer wants? So that is interesting. It actually improves the amount of forecasting in the sense of risk management. So if we say, yeah, we can do it, it will tell us how likely it is that we can actually do it based on how likely it was before. So obviously, when we feed it a lot of data, after some weeks or months, it can start forecasting that and tell us whether we are right, basically. We don't like to hear it very often, but that is what it can do. And personalized recommendations. And this is interesting on the one hand, because if I put skills matrices of everybody into the AI, it can recommend me people for certain jobs that I might not even know of that they had these skills. So that's interesting. On the other side, we talked about bias before, right? So there are some things to talk about that in a couple of slides when we're talking about privacy and ethical considerations as well. And obviously improve monitoring and reporting. I think this is pretty much makes sense after everything we've talked about already. Real-time dashboards, it goes into global collaboration as well. And then having automated alerts for risk management, predictive analytics, if we're talking, for instance, about whether capacity is running over, whether we are reaching critical bottlenecks, for instance, in processes. Too many people are working on too much stuff, don't we know it? That sort of thing can actually be easily made visual with an AI crunching numbers in the background. And automated lessons extraction. I think this is one of the things that, as an agile coach, it's the second thing I'm most interested in actually seeing. I know that a couple of my colleagues are already working with this. There are some people over at Scaled Agile at SAFE working with this. There are some people working with Prince2 on doing automated lessons extraction. So that's super interesting. So putting all the lessons learned from all of the projects, provided you have them, provided you track them, provided they are any good and real, right? Not the everything went well and everybody was happy lessons, but like the real lessons. And then having the AI come up with, so I'm doing a project on this and that. Give me a list of related lessons and things to think about from previous projects in the last 10 years. Bam, it produces me a list with stuff to think about. So that is actually very, very exciting going forward, because you already don't have a lot of time to do this. And this is so important and vital for a good risk management in a project. So let's be excited about AI and see what it can do in future. So when we're talking about all of this stuff, we're also talking about how a human will be using AI. And obviously that is quite a different process than when a human is doing the work themselves. And let's have a look at an approximation of what a general process for using AI in your work might look like. So we might be used to, we need something, let's set up a workshop, invite people over, and then we'll come up with a result, right? And you can tell humans this to some limited, let's say, efficiency that works. You might already know that defining output for a workshop makes it better, but when we are using an AI, it might sound like magic, but it's not. It's a computer, basically, that has a lot of data and that is very logical about stuff. So if I tell a computer, come up with something, it will come up with something. Might not be what I need. So in that sense, I can't steer the AI in the same way that I can maybe steer a human in their work. So me working with the AI and telling it what to do basically becomes the new process. Very often we call this prompting. So the sort of blocks that we use, language blocks that we use to tell an AI what to do. And it could come across as being very, very precise. You know, the stuff that a project manager doesn't like to do, telling people, I need this and this color at this exact date with these things attached to it. This and that needs to be on it. 3 surfaces, 3 ideas. It's not what you want to do, right? It's too detailed. You want to give people like space for innovation. The AI does not like it. The AI likes specific and exact. So that also tells me I need to know what I want. And if I don't know what I want, I will get what the AI thinks of in the moment. And it might be wildly different now in 10 minutes and 15 minutes. So in that sense, defining the output, what format do I need? Do I need a table? Do I need a visual? Do I need a report? How big should it be? What's the tone of voice? Do I need tables in there? Is it simple? They want epic language for marketing purposes. I need to define all of that. So there's a lot of thought going into using AI before starting to just do something very often if I want to use it professionally. Then obviously I need to choose the AI. Let's say it's in brackets because sometimes you might already know what you can use. You might already have some idea of the AIs, or there are some company guidelines, what you can use where, then you can skip that step. But searching and checking for an AI that does something can become like a whole tool exploration in its own, and you know how long that can take. So having a good brief overview of AIs that you can use for what like we're doing today, and maybe also having some like more, let's say, bigger versions of tooling and being in the know is really interesting. So I have a nice gadget for you later on that you can stay in the know and get to learn about AI tools quickly as well. Next, we will choose the data. Let's say we have data, that would be great. If we don't have it, we need to gather it. So there might be a lot of scrubbing data or scrubbing text basically out of Words, PowerPoints, Excels, the SharePoint where everything on a project is, you know it. And we will need to scrub that data and clean it, give it labels so that it's consistent. Otherwise, the AI won't know what matches. So if I have one report that's written in a completely different style than another report, it won't know that certain points are the same, right? So we'll need to tell it. So that is actually a lot of work that we need to put into it, saying that we are using a proprietary AI version, and then we need to use it. So we need to train ourselves on how to prompt, and then we need to train the AI on data sets and media, because when we use the AI in itself, it doesn't know anything yet, right? We need to train it on data. This becomes very interesting when we're talking about company solutions or corporate solutions with proprietary project data. Obviously, those are seldomly for free. So that is some solutions that you might be looking into for that specifically. Of course, I can use a ready available thing like ChatGPT, but then I'll be using data somebody else put in, right? So it might not be that relevant to me. So that is already, I think we're coming up to some of the like problems or challenges when we're working with AI. It all amounts to what data it was trained on, how relevant is it to me, what it spits out, so to say. So there is a lot of quality checking involved. So maybe here the process would be done. We would maybe log lessons when we're working with humans and say, okay, this workshop went well. With AI, we have a couple of loops in that. We will have a look at what it spit out and quality check it. Is the output actually matching the output that I defined in the beginning? And I will tell it, no, make it more simple, make the language more easily understandable, keep the sentences short. Do this and do that. And I need to check the attention to detail it put into stuff. For instance, did it actually give me bulleted lists that I can easily read or not? So I will say, turn this into a bulleted list and so on. And as you can hear, these pieces of text are what we use or call prompts, right? Take the stuff above, turn it into a bulleted list, use easy and simple language. That's it. That's a good prompt. So then very often we see, okay, it didn't yet completely understand. We need to add some more context. Take into consideration that we are doing a project in this field, that we are doing it with these and these concerns in mind and these risks going on. It's a very new and innovative thing or not, and then it will spit out different data again. So that is a thing that we will repeat. We will check what it's spitting out, if it's any use to us, if it could be better, then we will add more context, make it simpler, make it easier, take this into consideration, and then we'll repeat that process until we're happy. And in a do and repeat process, nobody knows how long it takes, right? So can take a while, but then when you are used to a certain AI and how it thinks or how it needs to be prompted basically to spit out good results, this will get faster and faster. So actually the one thing that you should be worried about is, am I already using it enough? Am I just training myself on it enough to be proficient with knowing and understanding what AI can help me with what? And I have a nice little table going on in a sec for you to check out some like big AIs and have a look at what we can do with them. And I'll show you some stuff that I tried out myself and that you can try out right away. And then let's not forget to log lessons, because we want to feed it into the AI later, right? To become more proficient and to also let everybody else know, okay, Ruth tried this and that. She did this and that. The AI responded best to the following prompts. So having a list of prompts that everybody can use that is being added to is actually one of the best things that you can do right now in your company already in the sense of lessons logging. What types of prompts and sentences bring best results for our context in the company? Now, we've talked a bit about it will not take our job, but we need to learn about it. We talked about the difference, what it can do. And here we see some of the limitations and already some of the changes and processes we need to take into account. Let's have a look at some concerns, because obviously we need to check security. If we're going to use some digital stuff, it needs to have good security, right? So what does that even mean for AI? And this is a very wobbly topic at the moment in a lot of countries, so be advised of this. There is basically just one big legislation from the EU that is on AI. There is a lot of bans on limits using biometrics, untargeted scraping of facial imagery and stuff, and you might understand where that is going and why that is being limited, but that's just the EU, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration there as well. So let's say you're starting out with AI. The company will probably be very interested in AI, but it will also look at the data stuff and the privacy stuff. So what are they thinking about? What do we need to think about? We need to think about responsible data practices. So we need to be sure that we can maintain trust in the AI that we're using and that we're mitigating risks, right? A lot of this comes down to privacy, human oversight, data protection, right? So that is what we will be talking. So it is crucial when we're choosing a tool to check the data protection. How is the data collected? How is it encrypted? Is it encrypted at all? Where do they store it? Is it stored locally? Is it stored somewhere in the US outside of GDPR? Do I have to adhere to GDPR for Europe? Is that not a concern? Do I need to check US data privacy protection laws? What is going on? So that is something you need to take into account. And it's also some idea of why some corporations and companies are not yet using AI, because they're still sorting this out with the lawyers, right? What can we use? How can we use it? What AI tools are there? What is good for my geographic location and my laws that we have locally? Another thing that we need to talk about is data anonymization when we're talking about privacy, obviously. So as we talked about bias before, obviously there are things that we need to leave out of data. So if we scrub or clean data to put it into the AI, we have to think very hard about what kinds of data are we actually putting in there and what are we teaching the AI. Do we want to make sure that project managers are gendered, are not gendered, stuff like that is coming up. So let's talk about that in the ethical considerations next. And a lot of that comes down to transparent policies on monitoring, basically. So companies should start producing their own policies and what they do. And obviously that is something to do with the lawyers as well. So it will take a bit, but after that, we might be able to use it, at least legally, officially, right? So that is what we're talking about. And then next, I think a topic of hot interest a couple of months ago started coming up is intellectual property. You might have heard about a lot of people who are artists complaining very loudly and probably out of right concern that their pictures and their imagery is being scrubbed from the internet and AIs are using it to produce stuff that looks like their work. So we need to be able to understand copyright laws, have licensing permission knowledge going on. We need to make sure that we're compliant when we're using the AI, because the AI always says, well, if you use it, it's your problem, right? So we need to make sure that we are using that ethically as well. And one thing that we need to do there first is education. What are intellectual property rights in my area? What are the laws right now? What do I have to check? What is important? So keeping that in mind as well. Let's have a look at the next one when we're talking about ethical considerations. So it all starts with respect for people, and a lot of the things that you probably already know about from the privacy part, cookies, GDPR, data protection. It also obviously goes into working with AI. So there's a lot of things that we need to keep in mind when we are producing things. Does it work with cultural diversity? Does it have informed consent? Are people able to say no or opt out of processes where it can actually impact their lives or decision making for them? Just think of financial. An AI making a decision whether you are getting a loan or not might be a big deal, right? Also in the sense of health and healthcare, that also might make a big deal when we use certain types of data sets for AI. So making sure that we are in line there as well, very important. A lot of this has to do with mitigating bias and transparency. So we can mitigate bias by the types of data we feed into it. So we can make data unbiased, you could say, by feeding it extra data, or by telling it that project managers can be male, female, and anything in between, for instance. That might teach the AI that there is no concern for gender when we're talking about a good project manager, for instance. And we can talk about feedback mechanisms, because very often we might not know something is biased, but another person might see it if it actually adheres to something that is important for them. So that is also important, having feedback mechanisms in there. You will not necessarily see that on a lot of AIs yet, so there's still a way to go. And then I can't regulate and audit what I don't understand. So transparency is key in this, making systems interpretable, having user-friendly interfaces so people know what is happening, how they are using it, what data is being collected, and so on, with easy to find things, not hiding what we're using and what laws we are adhering to is key in all of this. And collaboration. The more people work together, the more cultures work together, the more diverse groups of humans working together, the more sure we can make it non-biased, obviously. So keep this in mind. I know that probably data protection is a bigger issue, but there are a lot of laws about gender on the rise. Think of healthcare, misuse, buzzwords that we already know: ageism, ableism, racism, all of these things is coming up. It's becoming more and more high risk, and also more and more necessary for us to check it. So as industry leaders nowadays, let's think a bit ahead onto what the future of lawmaking could be when we're using AI in this regard. So now that we've talked about all of the challenges, maybe some of the limitations, let's have a look at some tools, yes? So first thing we said, everybody should be able to use AI so they don't get replaced by a human using it, right? So how can you do that? You could use this QR code, for instance. Please scan it and have a look at the hot AI newsletters that I've procured for you. I've done a lot of searching online and found a list of the best AI newsletters. I subscribe to these myself to be in the know and to learn. What I like most about these newsletters is that they will give you bite-sized information. Very often they'll give you an email a day. It can become a bit spammy, but an email a day about AI and a tool that you can use with some ideas on how to use it as well. I have learned the most about the tools this way, to be honest. So please check out that you have it. It will also be included in the follow-up email. So if you don't snap it now, that's okay. But if you can, snap it now. And let's have a look at some tools. Let's say, okay, so there's a lot of data stuff going on. I need to make sure that it works. So how about I build my own AI? And then I am sure that it works with data protection and laws in my current vicinity and so on. That might actually be a bit hard, because there goes a lot of money, energy, like very, very big buildings with a lot of supercomputers in it to produce what an AI does. Actually, it's one of the sustainability issues with AI. The data centers that take up a lot of energy actually consume a lot of energy in producing outputs. So maybe that's not what we want to do or what we can do, unless you're Microsoft or Google. Then maybe you have the money and the time and the resources. But let's say we don't. Then you need to take something that's already there and customize it. There are a couple of big AIs that are usable right now. Microsoft Copilot, you already might know some things of it because it is integrated in 365 Office as well. It's very good at task automation and workflow automation. For instance, transcribing something that, like a webinar or something that you talked about in a meeting, and then producing notes, taking to-dos out of it, automatically making to-dos into planner tasks, for instance. That's a lot of stuff.
Hi, Rute. Sorry to jump in. Your mic's been muted.
So can you hear me again?
Yes, perfect. Sorry about
Okay.
that. You might want to just jump back to the previous slide. I think it cut out a little bit. Apologies, everyone.
Okay.
Hopefully that's resolved the problem.
Okay, so I'll go from the start of the slide again, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry about that, guys. As you can see, AI is just as good as tech. It's not there yet, so don't worry. So what we're talking about next is if you want to build your own things and you don't have the time and money to produce your completely own AI, obviously you will want to use something that is already there, that somebody else has taken a lot of time and money to produce, and customize it to your location, making sure that it's conforming to all of your regulations. And then you'll probably want to do a local customization of that, because you can make sure that it's more relevant to your business. So if you want to use proprietary company data, you will have to do a paid version of this, obviously, but there is a lot of stuff you can already use. I'll just briefly touch upon these and say what they're good at, and you need to choose and have a look at what works for your data context and your projects. So I think some of you might already be using some features of Microsoft Copilot, for instance. It's integrated into the 365 Office suite, or some things of it are integrated if it's enabled by your organization, obviously. So it's very, very good at automation. It's what it does best. So automating subtitles for meetings, pulling out to-dos from the transcript and making cards for the planner for it, and so on. So that's what it's really good. So it's a lot of like the basic stuff that maybe an assistant would do. That is what it does basically. It's very good in all of this planning and so on, as long as you stay in office, of course. So next we have Gemini. Gemini is from Google, and it's very, very good for generating code. So if you want to start producing code snippets or maybe some sort of automations in that sense for your programming, then that's really cool for it. And it has also really good explanations for complex topics. So it's known for breaking down complex things into easy, understandable chunks. So it's good for learning as well. Then we have Claude. Claude is from Anthropic. It's maybe a bit less known, but it's extremely good if you want to feed huge documents into it. So this is something that I would be looking for instance, for lessons learning, for extracting lessons logs and stuff like that. So that's really amazing. You can put huge documents into it, and huge text chunks. And you will see that a lot of the others have limitations on how much text you can feed to it at one time, which can become annoying very fast if you need to put a spreadsheet in. So that is what Claude is good at. And then there is a fairly new one from Meta, obviously. All the big players are here, right? So it used to be called Llama, I think. Now it's called Meta 3 or something, or Meta AI. And it's rumored to be maybe even better than ChatGPT, because it's super fast in giving you answers. So that's cool, because who has all the time in the world, right? Um, on the off hand, sadly, it's not usable outside of the US, I think. I haven't been able to test it yet either myself, but keep a lookout. It's supposed to be very cool and very good. So that leaves us to going to ChatGPT. Let's have a look at ChatGPT. Probably a lot of you already know it. You've heard of it. Maybe you've tried some stuff into it, but I'll give you two prompts. That will also be in the follow-up email. So no need to like screenshot or type this. You will get it in the email. And then you can use this to actually do something for your project right now if you want to. So let's say you want to do a webinar on something, then you will go into ChatGPT and like copy paste the following. Give me a list of the top 5 topics around fluffy cats, for instance, and then address these in a webinar title and short description of content. So it will actually write an idea for a webinar or for a meeting or for something like this for you, which is quite interesting, to be honest. So next, you can also do a quick risk assessment with ChatGPT that you might not know of. It can tell you more than just what is this and that. So I've done a prompt here for you. We are doing a project to herd cats. Isn't all projects like herding cats sometimes? Generate a detailed risk assessment in a table format for this project. And then it will actually produce you a visual table. And it's very interesting to see what it produces. And it's also very interesting to see, let me pull up my presentation again. We are just going through the tech. Oh, there it is again. Okay, great. So it's actually interesting to see what it does with that. So I encourage you to put it in, and also to put it in maybe more than once, because it will give you very interesting and very different answers from 1 minute to the next, because it's crunching the numbers and the data, and then it will tell you what is going on in that moment. And that might actually change based on the data sets that it is having a look at. So giving you an example for this, I've obviously put it in just to be able to tell you something. So for instance, a webinar development, it will give me a title, a comprehensive guide to caring for your majestic fur balls, and then a description. But if I put it in again, it will give me a wildly different title and wildly different description. It will also tell me that I am not able to research, access real-time data, but I can generate likely topics based on interest information available up to my last training data in January 2022. So ChatGPT, anything it uses is like from before 2022. Good to know, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you can learn by putting that prompt in there as well. If we're looking at the risk assessment, it will actually produce a risk assessment table. So it will look something like this. It will have risks, it will have description of risk, likelihood, impact, and mitigation strategies, all from that one little prompt. So it will, for instance, tell us there is a risk that the cats will not cooperate. They may not respond to attempts at herding, and this will lead into delays and failure to achieve project objectives, which is fun, right? But it's also interesting. The mitigation, however, regular training sessions. Okay, for the cats, maybe not that usable. So you see, again, there is where you need to go into the stuff that the AI puts out, and you need to quality check and make sure that it fits for you as well. But fun, try it out. You can use cats, obviously, but you can use something else if you want. So try it out for your project after the webinar and get started using it. It's the best way to learn. Now, let's say you need something like really practical right now. I've pulled 4 things for you. Obviously, there is a lot more that you can use, but most of it is not freeware. Most of it is a trial, and then afterwards you need to pay money. So I've pulled 4 things that are completely free. Gamma is one of my most beloved things. It will just develop complete slide decks with matching graphs, images, and themes. Obviously, quality checking still important, but it's so fast. And if I think about the hours that I spent producing a good outline, just use Gamma and it will export to a PowerPoint as well. So beautiful to use. There's GraphMaker. GraphMaker will turn data, Excel sheets basically, into visual graphs to use in reports if you don't want to use the Excel visuals yourself, or you want some other visuals that you can like put big data sets into. Very interesting as well. Very good for market research. There's Monkey Learn. Monkey Learn has a couple of different things. What I like most is the ability to take customer net promoter scores and reviews and turn it into keyword clouds. So like visual representation of words that people wrote most about your product. Very interesting if you're in that area as well. Very interesting for software also. So try it out. There's a couple of different things that you can do with Monkey Learn with different links. It will be in the email. So 4 different things I've pulled for you that you can try completely for free. And there's Kimula if you're doing market research a lot. And you want to check out competitors, it's one of the best to like pull a product link from the internet, put it into there, and it will tell you all of the facts about this product, the company, and so on. Very, very good, and it's so fast. You will have more hours to do other stuff as a project manager, talking to people, working with stakeholders, right? Which is the most important. So I've talked a lot about all of the different AIs. I hope you've had a lot of interesting new ideas about how to use it, what to be careful of, and also on the limitations of AI, basically, because it cannot do magic yet, unfortunately, and it cannot do the dishes yet either. So there is still some improvement there. But what are your questions is what I want to know. Obviously, get in touch anytime, write me an email, and as soon as I have a minute, I will write you back, and we can talk about all sorts of stuff regarding AI and project. But let's get to the Q&A part of this webinar now as well. And thank you very much for listening all this time and nicely having a look at all of the AI stuff that we've been putting together for you.
Perfect. So yeah, if you could just pop your questions in the question box, that would be great. We can start talking through those. I noticed we've also got a few raised hands. Unfortunately, I can't kind of come to you guys to sort of verbally ask for questions. So if you do have questions, please put those in the chat box. While we are waiting for some questions to start coming in, we're just going to rerun the poll that we did earlier. Hopefully your confidence levels with AI have improved. But yeah, if you could just let us know on the poll, that would be great.
This is basically a did Ruth do a good job poll, right? Let's see what a job I did, guys. Be very, very honest. Oh no, some people are still not confident. Use the prompts. I'm telling you, it will supercharge. This is exciting. I think we had 82% before, right? Thanks for all the hearts and likes, guys.
Yeah,
it's very good for my ego.
Okay, I think we have had most people vote in the poll now, so we give it a few more seconds. Looking slightly better. As people's opinions, people are feeling slightly more confident. And then we have had some questions come in, so we'll move on to those in a second. Right, I'll end the poll now. So yeah, lots more people feeling confident, which is good.
Yeah, I made 60% of you quite happy, I think.
Yeah. Okay, right, now we shall move on to the questions. We have actually had quite a few questions come in, so I will try and get through as many as I can.
If we don't get to them, write me a follow-up email and I'll just answer you directly, guys. Don't worry.
Right, so Paul has said, what about tools for building integrated plans that can easily be adapted to show scenarios?
Come again? I didn't hear the first part.
So I think Paul's asking if there are any tools available that can be used for building integrated plans that can easily be adapted to show specific sort of scenarios.
Yeah, so most of the things are actually within like separate project management tools, basically. So obviously there are a lot of tools out there. I don't want to tell you one tool is better than the other. Obviously, for purposes, I can't like endorse a tool more than the other. I have really liked working with a lot of stuff that Atlassian puts out. Obviously, there are some like data connection tools as well that work with that really well. I think it would be probably easier if I just put a small list into the follow-up email instead of going through all of them here. But sure, we can do that. I'll put a note and then we'll put it in there. I think that's a valid question, yeah.
Another question we've had is, in terms of the lessons learned, what are the initial steps for setting up something like that, and how do they go about finding the right tools to do so?
Like the amount of data you need, or
I'm not fully
probably,
sure.
right? So first steps, I would say if you have at least 3 to 5 projects done with some valuable like lessons data from it, you can already do something with it. Then you don't need a big tool. Maybe using ChatGPT will be enough. Of course, proprietary project data, proprietary company data I wouldn't put in there. So you might want to get a paid version for your company first and check privacy that it's okay. But you can already do something with it. It's very valuable for risk management at that point. Obviously, if you have like a year worth of projects, maybe let's say 10 projects, then it starts getting really valuable, because then you can start doing how many percentage of projects ran into the same sorts of issues, what types of things are we always overlooking. Stuff like that is actually the most important, I think, apart from like in one project this happened and in that project this happened. So I think we're talking these types of data sets until you get like really good data from it. But
Yeah.
there is no point in not starting, because you have to get to those 10, right? So
Exactly. A lot of people are asking if they will be receiving a link to the newsletters or the resources. And yes, that will be included within the follow-up email that is sent out tomorrow with the recording of the webinar. So you will receive links to all of those things. Which project management training tasks already include AI? Are there any?
well, obviously I'm a lover of Prince, right? So Prince2 does touch on AI and has already some white papers and an AI guide on how to use it. Um, to be fair, I also know that PMI has a project management with AI basics course that is pretty good if you want to understand what AI is and how it works. So go have a look at that if you want to have the basics of understanding and learning, and if you want to start using it. Prince2 has some of that. There is more to come, but it's all very basic at the moment. Because people are still scrambling to do stuff on the AI themselves. So it will maybe take a bit. One of the AI newsletters of the 10 that are in the QR code, it will also give you a course on AI, which is a bit pricier, but also a bit bigger, which is like more on the technical side. So if you're interested in that side of AI, definitely check those newsletters out. I think it's the AI tool report in there. So yeah, that would be my first choice to go to for tech, I think. Yeah.
Perfect. Someone's asked if there are any tools, AI tools available for project managers where multiple people from the same team can collaborate on the AI
Mm.
at the same time.
Basically, any project management software that does that, but also uses AI, will do that. So there are a lot of them out there. Yeah.
Um, Sorry, we've had lots of questions, so I'm just trying
I know,
to
I know.
scroll
It's an
through,
interesting topic.
find ones we've not covered. Done that one. Is there any information you would recommend about AI for those that took, for example, a Prince2 sixth edition course or earlier, sort of when it didn't include so much of the AI aspect?
Hmm. To be honest, I would say just start trying out and using it, because companies and projects are so wildly different. I cannot tell you. And Prince2 is a beautiful thing, but it's very very general, right? It should work for all types of projects. So in that sense, there is not one tool that I can recommend after that. But I do think you might still need some of the prompting basics. So I would look for a course that has some of that, or you can just start writing prompts with the examples I gave you in ChatGPT and see where it leads you. You'll get proficient very fast, because I think every project manager is quite good at telling people what they want and how to do stuff. So that is what you're doing with the AI as well. So typing in the same way, or maybe not your project people, but maybe your kids or something. I need this in this format and so on. Be very specific and just start trying it out. I think that's better learning than going through courses and paying a lot of money very often, and then being maybe not that proficient in practical stuff. yeah, so try it out. It's no easy ways, guys, sadly.
We've had a question about whether AI is able to work out the best governance framework for project management.
A best what?
Governance framework?
Oh, like whether it can decide what type of framework you would need? I'm
Believe
not
so,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I would leave that up to AI, to be honest. It's more, I think it's more of a basic consideration of how innovative is it? Have we done this before? And the newer and the bigger it is, the less likely it will be useful to use something that's like very, very agile, for instance, with a lot of risks going on. So I think the easier you know and the less hard it is, the less complicated, the more governance you can leave away. So I don't think that has anything to do with AI necessarily, sadly.
Yeah. This one's quite a good one. So it says, where do you think you can see the biggest efficiency gains for project managers that harness AI?
Give me the first part of the sentence again, sorry.
Where could you expect to see the biggest efficiency gains
Yeah, the
as a
biggest
project
efficiency.
manager
Okay.
using AI?
I think a lot of the preparation of stuff. So going into a meeting, I would have to prepare data, I would have to prepare graphs, I would have to prepare tables, I would have to prepare a PowerPoint, and then pick out the most important points of a huge chunk of data, right? The AI will do all of that for you. It might even produce stuff that's visually good enough that you might use right away. So I think that part, a lot of the preparation, analysis, the like the manual putting stuff into tables and things like that, the AI will do a lot faster. So it might not make the project manager more redundant, but maybe like the office more, you know, the office part of it. I think that's where the biggest efficiency right now lies. There is stuff that is being produced that is going to help you do like complex risk mitigation. There, I have seen some AIs that are doing Monte Carlo simulations for risk management and so on. So that might also be interesting. So I think all of this analytic stuff and but not the day-to-day talking to stakeholders, sadly. That will be your job forever, let me tell you.
Great. Well, we've actually run over by a minute, so I think we'll have to call that a day for today. Thanks very much for all of your questions. We will try and answer as many as we can in sort of the follow-up emails, etc. So if we didn't get to your question, I do apologise. But yeah, we will hopefully address that separately. Um, Thank you very much for joining, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the session and found it useful. Just before you go, we do have one final poll. So if you wouldn't mind filling that in very quickly. And then, yes, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very
That went fast.
much.
You should have an answer. Ruth said to start doing ChatGPT first. uh, yeah, don't blame you guys. I thought I had to do one too before a couple of, when did I do it? I think last year or something. So you can get proficient very fast, as you can see. So don't shy away.
Great. I think that's pretty much everyone voted now. So again, thank you very much. We do appreciate you joining, and we hope you found it interesting. Thank you very much, Rute, for your time.
Get in touch, people.
Yes, yeah, please get in touch if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you very much. Bye.
And have fun trying.